Good morning, everyone. Clint McLaughlin here, Midwest Market Management. I've got Riley Sykard on with me here today. It is Tuesday, December 9th. We got a WASD supply and demand report coming out here in about 15-20 minutes. So we'll see what that has to offer. In the meantime, we're going to get back on track here with South America weather. As we mentioned in previous recordings, we do have a new exciting platform from Marcus Weather Group. It's with that comes a little bit of trial and error and new colors and new themes that we're working through. So it's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to seeing in the past, but we still can get to the point. Riley, what do we got for us in store here for South America weather?
Some smaller trend shifts, but before we get into that, let's just put into perspective how big of an area we're talking about. I've said this every time we've done this. Huge area looking from Mato Grosso all the way down into Argentina. If you put just Mato Grosso on a U.S. map in Brazil, it's almost the whole Midwest. So huge area we're looking at. You can't summarize this in one sentence. So with that said, going into planning progress here, Brazil's getting close to wrapped up with planning. Some small areas, Rio Grande do Sul, and that's kind of the main one that's lagging a little behind, but overall averages right up to puff, not any big shockers there. On the Argentina side, round two planting now as we're in December will be starting. So these numbers should start ticking up again pretty quickly after it's been a little bit bogged down over the last 20, 30 days. So expect these numbers to increase pretty quickly, but everything within realm of average right now. There hasn't been a area that's too dry to make farmers hold out or enough widespread regions of wet to keep guys out of the field either. So everything's within 2 points of average and yeah, nothing really, not any big weather stories.
Riley, real quick, could you back up to the Brazil planning pace here? Let's point out here, we're still talking about planning progress, but let's not forget the fact that within 4 to 5 weeks or less, we're also going to be harvesting. So some of these that are, have been 100% for a long time, the earliest of the soybeans are nearing maturity levels.
Yep, especially when you're talking Mato Grosso is your main one. That is where over 50% of your Safrinha crop corn gets planted. So that's why I always kind of make that one a focal point when I talk about area, because that's the one that, especially in terms of how it can affect a corn market for us here in the U.S., that's the one you got to look at the heaviest. Mato Grosso and Goiás right next door is, there's some areas that does a decent amount of Safrinha crop there as well. So definitely important to think about. Combines will be rolling down there within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So good thought to bring up there, Clint. Sorry, I glossed over that one pretty quickly.
No worries. So we're into temperature now.
Yep, moving into the temperature. This is just Brazil. I don't really have a whole lot of things to add or spend time on here, guys. There's not areas that crop is being grown where there's heavy stress. 80 to 70 degrees across the board. You can't draw it up any better than that.
Yeah.
Switching to the Argentina side, 1 to 5 days. Some areas in the lower 90s, but guys, we have lower 90s here in the U.S. and it's not an issue. So lower 90s in South America is definitely not an issue. So looking at the 6 to 10, it stays relatively similar too. Those areas in the 90s are too far east. There's not a lot of crops grown out in that area. So continuation of 80s to even in the south, some high 70s. So really good temperatures in the forecast. 10 days straight in northern Argentina of 90-degree heat. If there's rainfall in the mix, which they've had plenty in the past, it's not a big deal. So the potential for a huge weather scare isn't coming, but I would say it's definitely a trend shift for cooler temperatures right now with hardly anything in the mid to upper 90s in the future. So, moving over to rainfall, this is where Clint mentioned that some color differentials that we'll have to get a little bit more used to. Last 2 weeks of rainfall in Brazil, western Mato Grosso caught some huge rains, but down south where they needed to miss them, that's the key. Where they needed to miss rains, they missed them. So regions to the center west, Brazil, that they can take those rains up there. That's not a big issue. I have not heard any reports of flooding or any issues to be concerned about. So putting it into a national yield perspective, Clint, where there's still the potential for a big boom crop is there.
Yeah, I did hear that southern Brazil, there are parts of that are getting, and northern Argentina a little bit. I've read this is like other interpretations of weather, that they are looking to shave yield in those areas on corn. So, but that, you got to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, because we're shaving yield, but it's also like the first crop down there isn't even the massive portion of the entire continent's growing area. So, it's kind of like looking at it as, oh, Kansas double crop beans, that little tiny area is losing yield. Is that a large factor in the entire?
Oop, I lost my audio here. I lost you for a second.
Oh, yeah, I'm back.
There we go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the other thing to think about too, Clint, you talked about this a lot during the U.S. growing season, talking of lowering yields from where? Lowering yields from high in the sky numbers that nobody really expects those numbers to be hit, because those numbers were placed so high that we're taking away yields from monster numbers.
Sure.
Looking towards Argentina now, last 2 weeks of rainfall there. Some areas in the central to the northwest will be a little too wet, and that's where you talked about, Clint, some areas losing some yield. That's where it would be. These areas that have been just continuing to get pounded by rain, and they're having some issues. But, overall, as we look forward here, the next 1 to 5 day for Brazil, this is a big trend shift. We've been seeing heavier rains for the center west Brazil over the last 2 weeks, like we looked at, starting to slow down. Inch in the forecast over the next 5 days. Still plenty of rain, but not enough where it's going to make a big trend shift. So the next 2 weeks, I think we could be looking at a drier forecast as we look into it, unless something changes. Extended forecasts have been showing more dryness, except southern Brazil, where they don't want rain, they're going to continue to get it. So proven here, Argentina is pretty much missing rains over the next 5 days, but here's the more blown up version of that southern Brazil area where they don't want rain, they're going to get it. So 6 to 10 day, pretty mild across the board for Brazil. Argentina is very similar as well. So not a ton of rain in the forecast right now, Clinton. In terms of maps, that is all I have today. So we'll have to watch and see if that's a trend shift that continues, and if we start to see more of a dry spell come through. They're so well watered, and with mild temperatures right now, there's definitely no drought scare. But if that can be a new trend that stays for a month plus, then we actually have to start thinking about it a little bit.
And we better get moving here. Riley, got a report coming out in about 15 minutes. Appreciate you putting the maps together. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. Hope to hear from you soon. You can check us out at midwestmarketmanagement.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.
This material has been prepared by a sales or trading employee or agent of Midwest Market Management and is in the nature of a solicitation. This material is not a research report prepared by of Midwest Market Management Research Department. By accepting this communication, you agree that you are an experienced user of the futures markets, capable of making independent trading decisions, and agree that you are not and will not rely solely on this communication in making trading decisions. Distribution in some jurisdictions may be prohibited or restricted by law. Persons in possession of this communication indirectly should inform themselves about and observe any such prohibition or restrictions. To the extent that you have received this communication indirectly and solicitations are prohibited in your jurisdiction without registration, the market commentary in this communication should not be considered a solicitation. The risk of loss in trading futures and/or options is substantial, and each investor and/or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated by simulated historical tests of strategies, is not indicative of future results. Trading advice is based on information taken from trades and statistical services and other sources that of Midwest Market Management believes are reliable. We do not guarantee that such information is accurate or complete, and it should not be relied upon as such. Trading advice reflects our good faith judgment at a specific time and is subject to change without notice. There is no guarantee that the advice we give will result in profitable trades.